Hey everybody, hope you're having a good week. So today's video presentation focuses on authentic leadership. We just completed transformational and now we move to authentic. Both of those, as well as servant and adaptive leadership, will in large part be behavioral focuses. So today in authentic leadership we will describe it. We'll describe how it works and fits into the leadership process model, and we'll discuss some of the strengths and criticisms of authentic leadership. So let's jump in. Authentic leadership really, as Nordhaus notes, has resulted in the last 15 years and really grew out of there to be a desire for genuine, honest, trustworthy leadership given some of the crisis and ethical battles that have gone on in society and with nonprofits and with corporations. And out of this arose a real interest in having genuine, authentic, honest, trustworthy leadership. Authentic leadership developed in large part at the University of Nebraska from professors in the business college and then some others from Harvard. So it has three major viewpoints when you try to define it: interpersonal, and developmental. So intrapersonal, focusing on self and self-knowledge and self-awareness and the development of self. Interpersonal, the development of relationships, and then developmental perspective, growth over time. So, and as we flesh out the definitions of it, I think you'll see all three of those perspectives coming through. So one key definition and model for authentic leadership is a theoretical model, which you will find in Nordhaus on page 204 in chapter 9. And this shows the development of authentic leadership to be about some key psychological capacities, moral reasoning, and critical life events, and they feed into and develop these four behaviors, and the result is authentic leadership. So just to put a little bit of definition to this, by the positive psychological capacities, what they are referring to is what a lot of times is called HERO, because PSYCAP stands for these four qualities: hope, efficacy, resilience, and optimism. Hope being willpower and desire, as well as way power, being able to think of ways to do things and pursue them. So you can imagine someone might have a desire to do anything but can't think of ways to do it and loses hope. Other people might be able to think of ways to do it but just not care. So hope is both of those. Efficacy is the confidence you can do something. Resilience, the ability to recover and adjust. And then optimism, a positive view and having favorable expectations. So authentic leadership is a lot about that positivity combined with moral reasoning and critical life events. And by moral reasoning, we're talking about the ability to make ethical decisions, to transcend individual differences and be able to accept diversity, to be selfless, to serve the greater good. And then critical life events are positive or negative events that make a significant impact. I think Nordhaus references cancer as a negative event. There could be a number of positive events. Sometimes it's training events or life experiences. Some critical life events in my life involved trips to Morocco, teaching in Russia, and some of the conflict that resulted, and then also I struggle with a life disease, Crohn's. So those events have shaped some of the way I do leadership and the way I make an impact. And so in the authentic leadership model, it's saying these positive psychology capacities, the hope, efficacy, resilience, and optimism, they make up a person. And then your ability to think morally and make good decisions, combined with the events that shape you, and that results in these four things in authentic leadership. Now, to look at these four and define them, and you have probably experienced these in leaders, but didn't necessarily define them this way. Self-awareness. This is understanding yourself, regulating yourself, knowing your values, your emotions, your strengths and weaknesses, how to make an impact. We did this in ALEC 102. The internalized moral perspective is a regulatory process where this is you self-regulating your behavior by your values and standards, not by the pressures of others or peer pressure or cultural pressures, but you have your own internal mechanism and values and standards that guide your behavior. Balanced processing is the ability to analyze info and people and circumstances from multiple viewpoints. You're unbiased, you're open to others' perspectives. Some of you have described yourself this way, and you've described leaders this way. They just have an ability to hear others' people's perspectives and to listen to them and take those into consideration. And then finally, relational transparency, the ability to communicate openly and be authentic with others and connect with them. So if we plug this back into the model, what authentic leadership, when that happens, it's the kind of influence that results from a leader having these qualities, this moral reasoning, and out of their life events, they learn from them and grow from them, and consequently, they possess self-awareness and an internalized moral compass, this ability to be balanced and connect with others, and influence with followers results from this. And that's a theoretical explanation of authentic leadership. There is a practical expression of authentic leadership that comes from Bill George, which is also again described in Nordhaus, and this diagram is there on page 200. And what Bill George did was he studied 125 successful leaders and found some of the characteristics of those who were authentic, and there was 5. They had a clear sense of purpose and passion. And of course, he tells the story of Terry Fox, the cancer survivor who had his leg amputated and went on to raise a lot of money for cancer. This passion and purpose is not just about personality. It doesn't mean you're necessarily an extrovert or real vocal. You could have a quiet internal passion. It just means that you are driven by something you want to accomplish. Your behavior is set by your values. You have an ability to connect with people, and this would involve your interpersonal skills. You're self-disciplined and consistent. And then you have compassion, empathy. You act from the heart. You're concerned about people and causes. So, and what Bill George found in the study of these leaders is these 5 characteristics merged together made up an authentic leader, an authentic leadership. And so as the leader interacted in this way with the followers and had these characteristics, the influence that resulted with that was authentic leadership. So that's the way it is described theoretically and practically. And you can probably imagine teachers, community leaders, coaches, or you could think of individuals in culture and society that had some of these characteristics, and you may not have thought of it as the authentic leadership theory, but you would describe them as authentic leaders. So how does authentic leadership theory work? Here's what's key about it. Authentic leadership is about development and growth and being genuine. And this means there's a training and development of these key qualities: the hope, resilience, optimism, confidence, or the ability to connect with others, your discipline, your compassion, your values. These things can be developed. So authentic leadership is a great way to train people. It also is about growth from critical life events. So you have this sense of when things happen, workshops, weekends, difficulties, or positive things in your life, you're able to interpret them and see how they impact you, and you're able then take those stories and use what you learn from them and shape others and mentor others and serve. So this is the ability to learn from critical events. It's about personal growth and then relational growth, developing strong relationships with followers. So again, authentic leadership is all about development and growth and being genuine, and then the influence that results from this. So when we put this in the leadership process model, and here we go again, here's our leadership process model. Authentic leadership is going to be focused on leader development and the leader-follower reciprocal relationship, learning from each other, and the process. As the leader is developed over time and as the relationships develop over time, influence and impact results. So it fits in the model, both in the leader-follower relationship, but then in the process that results when a leader is developing and growing and developing relationships with the follower. So let's just take a moment here and highlight just a couple of strengths and weaknesses. It clearly fulfills a society need for trustworthy leadership. It's broad, meaning it affects behavior, character, mission, passion, has a moral dimension, very developable. You could train people with this. They can grow in this. It can be measured. There is an authentic leadership questionnaire to measure in terms of these 4 or 5 major characteristics, and you're going to do that in your discussion time. It does have some criticisms. It's in the formative stage, so there isn't a lot of research on it. I will post a couple of extra articles that you can look at and help you with the case study, because you're going to use authentic leadership with your case study and evaluate that case study in view of the theoretical and practical approach to authentic leadership. So another criticism is the moral component of it is not fully explained. It's not exactly clear which values and the role those values play and how that's different for each leader. And then this positive psychological capacities, the role that they have has not been completely researched and clear, so we know how significant, say, the hope and the efficacy and the resilience and optimism are for authentic leadership and the influence. And then the link between authentic leadership and positive organizational outcomes is unclear. It hasn't been tested to be shown, okay, when we have a true authentic leader, there's greater organizational impact or greater productivity, or what results do actually have been tested and shown, and that's because authentic leadership is relatively new in the last 15 years. But it is a key behavioral approach to leadership. It is one of my favorite to research, and I think its focus on development and growth, both of the leader and in the relationships and in the authenticity of it, I think it has a lot of value, and we probably have all at some point benefited from an authentic leader in our life. So that is authentic leadership.